and begging for it from them, and often they will pay it eventually. But why take it out of the government's budget if there's someone else that's willing to pay it? So by increasing that, making medications more available, and having experts on our situation and social assistance, our lives would improve dramatically, and it would, again, allow some of us to potentially get back out to work if it wasn't so punitive for people that work for little bits of time.
Thank you very much for I guess, sharing some of the details of what it's like to have that really low level of income. And I'm wondering if you can elaborate on some points that I think I heard you made. You said something about people being unable to get married. Would you be able to speak a bit about that issue, please?
Yes, that is the household income policy, the HIP. So 6.1 essentially says that if you want to get married or have a roommate and you are on social assistance and you have a combined income of over, it's about $980 a month, and we can never get a clear figure on that either. It changes depending on who you talk to at social assistance. But it's not a lot of money. You then become the responsibility of your partner or your roommate, and they are expected to cover your costs. So we have a member who is in a wheelchair and has some fairly expensive medication. She's been engaged for many years. She cannot marry, because if she were to get married, and he works, but I mean, he's not, you know, if he was making $250,000, it might be different. He's not. So he would then have to take on all the costs associated with that. And that would include like her home care workers. She can't be home. You know, she needs those workers. She needs the food. She needs medication. She needs her wheelchair. That's not fair. And it's just a crazy, because even if we stopped and thought about it, I realize that they put that policy in place at some point to avoid people that were trying to cheat the system and having 2 or 3 people living together getting this income. But it shouldn't fall on us to police the system. The system should have its own ways to police itself. But if you had 2 people with disabilities living together as roommates, let's say, and they need a home care worker to come in, one home care worker could come in and do what they need to do with those people instead of needing 2 going to 2 separate places. You'd also only need 1 rent subsidy. It would open up housing. It would free up time for home care workers, because most of our members are telling us consistently that their hours are being cut, which if they don't report it to social assistance, which most of them don't know, the government still pays the company does not pay the worker. So how much money is being lost there? We can make a huge difference there, not to mention the fact that we've just learned through COVID, no one likes being alone, not for that long period of time. You should be allowed to be with your life partner. You should be allowed to get married and have children. You should be allowed to have a roommate if you so choose. And the government should not be telling us that we cannot, or that we're going to be even poorer and living on the streets.
Thank you very much. And I can't see the clock. Madam Chair, could you give me a time check? Okay.
25.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I probably have time for one more question. So thank you for talking about the household income policy. This is something that I've seen constituents and people across the province raise as one of the barriers, and I've heard the same thing, that that social development appears to be lacking resources to be able to respond. I mean, I've spoken to social workers who their caseload's so high that they can't do any in-person visits. They can only do phone calls. And so there's definitely some lack there. And ultimately, though, we don't want to be tweaking around the edges. We want to have some systemic changes. And I guess what I'm hearing